We'll also be reading a chapter from a book called The Anthropocene, a play on words on the Anthropocene. The Anthropocene is a term used to describe the geological age that we now exist, um, and refers to the way in which human interaction with the environment has transformed the environment, has the physically transformed the earth. And This refers not just to, when we talk about technology, this means not just the technology that pollutes the water or the air, or that rips up the land, that strips the land, that turns mountains into plains and forests, um, uh, into whatever holes. Um, it also refers to the materials that has to be used to build that technology. So there are really three aspects of this that we need to look at. One is the aspect of, okay, um, we need to extract from the earth certain rare earth metals in order to build computers, and both the circuitry, and even the batteries. All of these things, as demand for these devices grows, so does the demand for the raw materials used to build the devices. Um, and This has cataclysmic impacts, both, and not just in terms of the environment, but in terms of labor. There's a lot of child labor that goes on. Most of these rare earth metals come out of Africa. Um, Sometimes they're shipped to Asia, where they're refined. It's a very complicated and web of industrial and financial relationships. Example of globalization, and so the result is that um, the environmental degradation is spread, throughout much of the planet. Um, so we have the extraction process, and then the other thing I should point out that there are political dimensions to this. Economic, economic, like the labor; environmental, like the extraction. And then they're also political, because those who control the raw materials are going to be enriched, and they're going to have power. They're going to use that power to corrupt. There are literally civil wars occurring in places like Congo, over the sort of the blood metals. I mean, think of it as blood diamonds, except that it's not diamonds. There are things as precious as diamonds, but they're used for our computers and companion devices. Another aspect of this is what's sometimes referred to as zombie media, which is that, and this is why it's also complicated. Okay, Apple every year unveils a new iPhone. People, because their identities are so caught up in their in the devices they have, their status, their trendiness, so caught up, the hipness, they're so caught up in the devices they have to have the latest devices. And of course, these are advertised in a way to make it seem like, and this is ideological, that these devices are more than just the kind of like fashion. They're actually necessary. Though when you compare what you can do with one iteration of an Apple phone with what you can do with the latest iteration, it's infinitesimally different. But what happens to all the old phones? Where do they go? They're zombie media. What's interesting about this is that this stuff doesn't biodegrade. So people use these phones and these laptops and these PCs for really a relatively short slice of their lifespan. They're living dead. They're dead, but they're still stick around. Where do they go? What do you do with them? And uh, there are again environmental impacts. Either the toxic metals that are in them leach back into the soil and the water, or they're recycled, often sent to third or second world countries where they're recycled in unsafe ways that poison the workers as well as the environment. So that's another aspect of this that needs to be looked at. So anyway, that's the Anthropocene in brief, and we'll be looking at the economic, political, and environmental aspects of it.